Hatred is one of the most destructive emotions a human being can experience. While it's often driven by a sense of injustice or pain, hatred doesn't just harm the one it's directed at, it consumes the person who harbors it. One of the most dangerous side effects of hatred is its ability to cloud reason. When we are driven by hatred, we stop thinking clearly. We make irrational decisions, jump to conclusions, and sometimes even destroy relationships, careers, or even entire communities, all because we lose the ability to judge fairly. Think about the last time you were really angry at someone. Maybe they hurt you, betrayed you, or said something that cut deep. At that moment, did you pause and reflect objectively on the situation? Or were you consumed with emotion, replaying their actions over and over again, building a case against them in your mind? Hatred is like a fog that settles over our judgment. We stop listening. We stop considering. We stop understanding. All we want is to win, to punish, or to hurt back. One clear example of hatred clouding reason is seen in history, particularly in war. Consider the Holocaust during World War II. Driven by hatred against Jews and other minorities, Nazi ideology led to horrific atrocities. Millions were slaughtered not because of reasoned, thoughtful decisions, but because hatred had overridden all logic and morality. The hatred became a tool for propaganda, and people were manipulated into believing irrational ideas that under normal circumstances they would have rejected. But hatred doesn't just show up on a global scale. It infiltrates our personal lives, our politics, our workplaces, and even our relationships. A manager who dislikes an employee may overlook their achievements, exaggerate their faults, and judge them unfairly. A friend who feels betrayed may spread rumors or cut ties without seeking explanation. In romantic relationships, old resentments can bubble into hate, distorting how we view the other person. We no longer see their actions clearly. Instead, everything they do is interpreted through a lens of bitterness. Social media is another battleground for hatred-fueled reasoning. Online, people often post emotionally charged comments without verifying facts, misinterpreting others' words and assigning malicious intent where there may be none. Mob mentality takes over, and before long someone is canceled or harassed, not because of a balanced review of facts, but because hatred took the wheel. The result? Permanent damage to reputations, emotional trauma, and a society that becomes less and less capable of engaging in civil discourse. Hatred simplifies complex situations. It turns people into villains, arguments into personal attacks, and conflicts into battles for dominance. When we hate, we stop asking, why did they do that? Or, thus, is there another side to the story? We don't seek truth, we seek vengeance. In that pursuit, we lose sight of fairness and compassion. Philosophers, psychologists, and even religious leaders have long warned against the dangers of hatred. The Buddha said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The Prophet Muhammad PBUH taught that anger is a door to evil. In the Bible, hatred is described as a path to darkness. All these teachings point to the same truth, that hatred blinds the mind and poisons the heart. Let's consider how hatred affects the brain. Neuroscience shows that intense emotions like anger and hatred activate the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for the fight or flight response. When this part of the brain is activated, it overrides the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational thinking, planning, and decision-making. So, when we are consumed by hate, our brain literally switches off our ability to think critically. That's not just a metaphor, it's a biological fact. But here's the thing, we often believe that our hatred is justified. When they deserve it, we tell ourselves, they hurt me, so I have the right to hate them. But even if your anger is understandable, acting on hatred rarely produces justice. Instead, it leads to escalation. What could have been resolved through conversation turns into a grudge that lasts years. What could have been a learning moment turns into a cycle of revenge. Imagine two countries at odds. One attacks, the other retaliates, and the spiral continues. Each side justifies their actions through the lens of past wrongs. Generations grow up learning to hate the other, and peace becomes impossible. Not because solutions don't exist, but because hatred makes people unwilling to see them. Now think of a simpler scenario, a family dispute. A brother feels neglected, a sister feels judged, and over time those feelings harden into resentment. Eventually they stop speaking, they avoid each other at gatherings. Parents suffer in silence, watching their children drift apart. All of this because no one paused to understand, to communicate, or to forgive. That's the cost of hatred clouding reason. So, what's the solution? The The first step is awareness. We need to recognize when hatred is influencing our thoughts. Pay attention to your emotional triggers. Ask yourself, am I being fair? Do I have all the facts? Is my reaction based on truth, or am I just trying to protect my ego? The second step is empathy. Try to see things from the other person's point of view. You don't have to agree with them, but understanding them can dissolve some of the venom. Hate thrives on distance. The closer we come to understanding someone, the harder it is to dehumanize them. The third step is forgiveness. Not because the other person always deserves it, but because you do. Hatred is a weight that drags you down. Letting it go doesn't mean forgetting, excusing, or ignoring the wrong. It means refusing to let it control your life. And finally, we must surround ourselves with people and messages that promote peace, understanding, and growth. The media we consume, the conversations we have, and the values we celebrate all shape how we think. If we constantly feed our minds with anger and division, we will lose our capacity to reason. But if we embrace stories of unity, examples of grace, and teachings of wisdom, we can restore our clarity. Remember, hatred is easy. It feels powerful. It makes us feel justified. But it's a trap. It steals your peace, poisons your thoughts, and robs you of reason. True strength lies in clarity, in seeing people and situations for what they truly are, not just what your pain makes you believe. In a world that often encourages outrage, be the one who thinks before reacting. Be the one who asks questions instead of assuming. Be the one who chooses understanding over revenge. Because when hatred clouds reason, we all lose. But when we choose reason over hatred, we build a better world, one decision at a time.